From the early days of selling shoes from the back of his car to becoming Scotland's first self-made billionaire, Tom Hunter's journey is a testament to what determination and a dream can achieve. Once he achieved financial success, he turned his fortune towards helping others, passionately advancing education and entrepreneurial spirit through the Hunter Foundation. Today, we will deep dive into Tom's philosophy about life and business, exploring his commitment to venture philanthropy and how he believes we can all play a part in making the world a better place. We'll get his take on the current trends in the global economy, supporting Scotland, parenthood, and scaling businesses. Enjoy the episode. So I was first introduced to Tom and his work in 2018 when I was first joining the very first scale-up cohort, which our accountant had actually heard about on the radio and encouraged us to apply. So it was then that we were met with Tom and the Hunter Foundation, who's supporting entrepreneurs building businesses in Scotland. So welcome to Tag Lab, Tom.
Thanks very much, Laura. It's great to be here.
We are delighted to have you. And I want to say that since joining that very first cohort back in 2018 and now going through the second Scale Up Scotland cohort, our business has increased almost 6 times what it was then. Wow. So we've been incredibly lucky to benefit directly from the support of Tom and the Hunter Foundation and his amazing team. And it's not just been the financial backing that you guys provide to these programs. It is access to a network that we just would never have even known about, from the world-class speakers that you bring in and the people that are organising the programme and what they know that businesses need, like Ken and Ewan, and just the most amazing peer group who I think we support each other in a way of doing group therapy that I had never imagined, but we'll challenge each other and help each other create entrepreneurial opportunities and build the ecosystem. So it's not lost on me that if you weren't doing this, then I don't think it would be happening. So I'm starting with a thank you for the opportunities, the belief, the mindset, and the unfair advantage, as I've heard you say.
I think we'll just stop here and say thanks very much. That's all I want to hear, really.
Job done.
Job done.
Job done. So I want to start with something that you said to me a while ago, and it's really helped me remember the importance of what we're all doing when things get a bit muddy and a bit difficult. You said to me, the best way out of poverty in Scotland or in any country is a well-paid job. And you guys, these businesses, are creating jobs for people. It's not the government, it's businesses. So I want to set the scene by talking a bit about how do you see businesses changing that landscape in Scotland and other countries?
Yeah, so I guess, we've been very lucky in our lives, and we've had time. I sold the first business really I ever started when I was 37 years old. And, so I've had time to think about it, Laura, is the first thing. Most people, if they're lucky enough, come to some financial wealth at the end of a career. Mine kind of happened mid-career, and I do believe there's a reason for that. But anyway, that's a whole different podcast. But I haven't time to think about it. So at 37, I had enough money in the bank not to do anything. But so I had to work out what it was all about. And one of the things that I really cared about was Scotland. And, I feel absolutely blessed to have been born here, to be educated here, to bring my kids up here. We live here. We've never moved away for tax purposes or anything like that. And therefore, what can we give back to Scotland? And, so you think, we could do this and this and this. But then I thought, look, when I began to look around for my purpose, I saw a lot of, Tom, can you give to this charity? Can you give to that charity? Can you do this? And I thought, well, that's what they want me to do. What is it that I could do? And the thing I knew about was business. And where I saw poverty is a wide church. It's not defined just by lack of money, lack of opportunity, health poverty, all of this stuff. it's I saw what was missing was purpose and money. And how's that provided? Well, a job, a decent paid job, is that thing. And who creates them? You, people like you, entrepreneurs. And it's not the big companies anymore, Laura, because of technology, and you know this more than most. You know, the pace of change in business today is the fastest it's ever been. It's the slowest it will ever be, and AI is going to turbocharge it. Now, big companies can't cope with that because of the layers of management to get to decisions, whereas entrepreneurs like yourself are quick to make decisions, quick to pivot, get great people run about them, can try things, fail, get back up. And that's why it is entrepreneurs who are creating the next set of jobs. And that's why we really, once we thought about it, and it didn't come so quickly to us, but we decided that our biggest thing we could do to help poverty in Scotland was to help people like you grow your business quicker with less risk. You would then employ more people, they would pay their taxes, and then the government would muck it up by the way they allocate it. Everything apart from the last bit, but yeah, maybe quite a lot about the last bit. Anyway, that's a very long answer.
Yeah. No, it's great, and thanks for sharing that. I'm 37 right now, so I have I hope that I can emulate some of the success you've had.
You don't have
And
any time left. Go on with it.
I'm 38 in July, so I better get on with it. So
Ah,
and I completely agree with what you're saying. Small enterprises, we're so flexible, and we try stuff and we do stuff. It doesn't work, that's fine. And what I've learned is no decision is irreversible, or very few decisions are irreversible, especially in business. So go for it, try it, see what happens. So I'm interested to go back to your early days. You went from initially, I think, selling shoes out the back of a van to exiting your business for hundreds of millions of pounds, and I think became Scotland's first self-made billionaire, which will probably be embarrassed to say, but is a phenomenal journey. And I'm interested in what made you take the very first step, that very first bit of action to go do something yourself.
yeah, I mean, it was Steve Jobs that said you can't join the dots looking forward, only looking back. And that's quite a profound statement. I didn't quite get it to start with, but I think I get it now. And when I look back, you know, business had been in my blood. My dad was a shopkeeper. My dad was and is my hero. You know, we talked business round the dinner table. I worked in the shop from goodness age 6. I loved it. I loved being with him. I loved being in the shop. So it was in my blood. But I actually think what drove me was I did not take authority well. I hated taking orders. I could. I was so disruptive. I mean, I nearly get chucked out of university for asking the marketing lecturer how many businesses he'd started, and or if he'd just read a book. You know, I was a absolute nightmare. So nobody would employ me anyway. So, but these are all traits of entrepreneurs, you know, and self determination. I think, and freedom to do what you want is the entrepreneurial nirvana.
Absolutely. Do you think that intrinsic motivation can be built in somebody, or do you think it's something that you're just born with? Because I
Yeah,
think that is what creates entrepreneurs, is drive with nobody telling you to do anything.
yeah, it's a great question, and I don't know if I don't even know if I've worked it out yet. But nature or nurture, I guess I'm gonna be on the fence and say yeah, a bit of both. The fantastic entrepreneurs, yeah, have it within them, and then they get coached, however, to be brilliant. But I think there's a bit of it in all of us. Yeah.
I think personally, I've always just had my own drive. I didn't need somebody to say, do this, do that. I always just wanted to do stuff to see if I could do it, see if I could do the next thing. But I think maybe where I see it being built is once people have gone through really challenging experiences. So once you go through something tough and you maybe realize what you're capable of and get a glimpse into what your potential is, then I think it can be built. But not if things are always easy and you follow the same path. There maybe has to be a bit of a moment. But yeah, I find it hugely liberating to not be waiting on anybody else. Um, so something I've heard you talk about and I'd love to hear more about was your leadership team at Sports Division. Highly successful, but maybe a little bit dysfunctional as a group. The psychologists didn't always know what to make of them. What
Yeah.
do you think about that leadership team and those key people around you, and why were you guys successful?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that really I was really into small, high performance teams. I worked that out very early. I didn't want to have a big team. I wanted to get action. I wanted to get things done. I believed that empowering really great people was the way to do it, and I still believe that. And I didn't know in the sports division, I was putting this team together because I'd never done it before. So it kind of, right, I need someone to do this. All right, okay. Who's about? Right, okay. And I guess I stumbled across, I mean, there was basically three of us. There was basically three of us grew this business. And but once once I had those people, I was very much into, we worked with clinical psychologists, believe it or not, to try and them tell me where I could improve, what I had to do. And, the clinical psychologist, after a 3 day session in America with my team, said, Tom, we just don't know how this operates. It's the most dysfunctional set of individuals we've ever met, and we think you should sell the business. They didn't know that I was going to sell the business, but it worked for me. And I guess, what was this business? This business was a sports retailer in a race because the market was exploding, and therefore those who could execute and grow quickest won. And that's what we were brilliant at. And I didn't know that at the time, but I kind of knew we were in a race. And the culture that I built was David versus Goliath. It was us against the world. Oh, you can't do this from Scotland. I just watch us. Oh, you can't buy a company that's 10 times bigger than you. Oh, really? We've just done it. Oh, you can't, I loved it. Whenever anybody said you can't do it, it's just watch us. So the culture was us against the world. And I think Scots are thrown that way. I think we quite like that.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it gets everyone excited about that fast pace of growth and can deal with the challenge and deal with high pressure environments when you have that kind of mission that you're going after.
Yeah.
And how did you distill that culture throughout the company? I've heard of some of the things that you did to really celebrate the wider team as there was loads of people joining. How
Yeah.
did you recognise people? Because I think you did some interesting things there.
So I read a book called by Sam Walton called Made in America. And Sam Walton was the founder of Walmart, which in the UK they owned Asda for a while. And Sam built this business from nothing to be the world's biggest retailer. He became the world's richest man. Not that that was his motivation, but and he a thing at the back of the book called Sam's 10 Rules, and I just thought, I'm just going to change one word, which is Sam to Tom, and off we go.
Same amount of letters as well. Perfect.
I've always loved reading, and I devour things like that. And I just thought, this is it. This is the blueprint here. And I mean, it's still in print today, and I still give it to some people. I think the last person I gave it to was James at Brewdog, actually. Anyway, so some of the things we do. So what was he saying? He was saying communication is the key thing. Now remember, this is the dark ages, Laura. This is not technology. This is, So we had maybe, let's just round numbers call it, and then with 300 shops, right? So I had to buy a telly for each shop, and I sent them round a VHS recorder, a VHS tape every month, and I filmed myself and my team telling them what was important. We were telling them, right, we've grown by 50%, we have smashed this isn't good enough, here's what's happening. And we used to dress up. I used to dress my team up and myself. So if it was a back to school thing, I'd have on the head teacher's cloak, and they were all school pupils. And it showed we weren't taking ourselves too seriously. Here was the boss, here was the marketing director, here was the operations director dressed as a schoolboy in shorts. It was nuts. But that went out every month. There's another great book for anybody who's listening called The 1 Minute Manager. And you'll read it in 45 minutes and it'll change your life for managing people. And the one thing, if you can't be bothered reading a 45-minute book, you should turn off the podcast now. But anyway, the one thing from it that's so powerful was catch your people doing something right. How many managers have we met that are like, see, you didn't do it that was wrong. Catch them doing something right. And so I said, right, how am I going to create this culture? So in retail, Monday's an important day. We look at what's happened last week, we analyse it, what's going to happen this week. So it's a very long day, but I got all of my team, and the wider team, there was maybe six. Two key lieutenants, but it's maybe six in total. And I said, right, every Monday you've got to come to me with someone who's did something for the business over and above what we pay them for. So that I was encouraging them to catch people doing something right. And if it was somebody either in the warehouse or the head office, I would physically take my team, I would go to their desk, and I would bend down and kiss their feet and say, thank you, Laura. Last week you saved the company £10,000 because you stayed late, and here's what happened, and we appreciate it and we recognise it. And everybody's looking round about going, what's Tom kissing that girl's feet for? I don't know if you're allowed to kiss feet these days, but it's more symbolic than actual. But and they got my car and they got my driver, and they could take their partner and go for a meal wherever they wanted. And we had a Rolls Royce going through McDonald's drive-through. We had, it was great. The other thing Sam Walton said, I'm giving you all my secrets now, Laura.
I'm writing them down. I'm making notes.
The other thing Sam Walton said was a few sincere words of praise are absolutely free and worth a fortune. And that's always stuck with me. Scottish people were a wee bit, hi Laura. Say, Laura, that was brilliant what you did there. I absolutely loved it. Thanks so much. And it soon catches. People catch this culture. So these were just some of the daft things we did, yeah.
I think that being seen is what you latched onto, and I think that's what people appreciate the most out of anything, is like, we want to be seen and recognised, and some of it doesn't cost a lot of money to do. So I think those are really impactful things. I'm interested in your use of media so early on, recording a video and sharing that. You were leaps and bounds ahead of probably what people were doing.
Buying 300 tellies.
To have the foresight to do that is great, because communication gets so difficult, when it's that one to many. Yeah. And I wonder, do you ever think about now, like, what would you do with the data and the technology if you could put that into your business that you had then, can you imagine what you would
I
what you
think it
could
would
do?
blow my mind. I don't think I could cope.
I was the reporting even that you're talking about getting on a Monday. I just imagine what that would look like now in
Well,
retail.
remember, Laura, I sold out before there was anything called e-commerce.
Oh, I know.
I know it's hard for you at the tender age of 37 to even believe that, but yeah, I was always into my data. It was just a bit harder to get at. But
Yeah.
it, it, I think it made you really think about what we measure and it's important. I think today, just because we can measure doesn't mean we should. I think today it's the job of you to say what really matters here with your team and then measure that and manage that because you can measure anything in your business, but that doesn't mean to
Yeah.
say you should.
No, and you get drowned in data, and there's ways to, make things look a certain way. I remember something you said about the the test was really for your buyers to find what was the product that people were going to just go crazy for at the weekends. And so
Yeah.
part of that's data, but part of that's gut feel and really knowing your market and being on the trends. It's not that's a real skill set.
So,
So
so
you might damage them.
I had to decide, Laura, what was my role going to be, as well as the team and strategy. And in our business, the buying was the most important function because if we didn't have Nike Air Max in a size 8 on a Friday afternoon, the business was doomed. Didn't matter how much we smiled. Do you have this in a size 8? No. All right, that was terrible customer service. It wasn't the smile that did it. It was, yes, pay for it up there. And therefore, I decided early on that I wasn't doing the buying, but I was responsible for the buying. Now, I'm very proud to say that a young man who I first met being a Saturday boy in one of my concessions in Shawlands became the footwear buyer and was buying 6 million pairs of shoes a year. And I gave him that confidence to say, Laurie, you understand it's going to be Nike Air Max. Let's just put the numbers down. If it fails, it's my failure. If it succeeds, it's your bonus. And, I had to get someone who was as close to my customer buying it, who had a feel for it, because I was a wee bit old, even at 37, and then empower them. And I don't know if I've ever told anybody that, but that was the real key to it all.
Yeah. And I think that's how you build the confidence in your team is you give them something that they can do and let them own that thing that's just a wee bit out of the comfort zone, and then you build on that, and then that's how you have this amazing team. So
Yeah, yeah.
you touched on failure there, and I'm interested, is there any memorable failure that springs to mind, and what did you learn, and did it take you a long time to learn it?
Well, so if we just get the timeline, so I sell out in 1998. I then formed West Coast Capital, and over the next, let's call it 8 years, we're not really doing anything wrong. It's mental. We've met some amazing people. We're partnering with people. We're making money hand over fist, and then the great financial crisis comes, and we are not prepared for it. We didn't see it coming, and we're overstretched, we're over leveraged, and we're in trouble. All my fault. And banks that we had great relationships with, the people are all sacked. I'm faced with someone I'd never known saying, Tom, can we have our money back? And I said, no, I don't have it. It's like, what has happened here? So that was a failure by me to understand that the good times don't last forever. The bad times don't last forever either. But and if you want to put a number in that, Laura, I probably lost £250 million. And I can say that glibly now, but it taught me, one, don't believe my own bullshit. Don't be over leveraged. And to this day, I borrow nothing from the bank. Everything's bought and paid for. Don't owe banks a penny. And really understand and manage your risk. Understand it first of all, and then manage it. And these have been the pillars. So I probably come out of that probably 20, it probably took 5 years to sort out that mess. So a hell of a learning. But do you know something? I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it because I really did learn from it. And I'm so happy today that I learned from it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Do you think you manage the risk more now as your own kind of way of doing things, or is that from people like Peter that you've got around you? Did you bring it? Was Peter involved at that stage? Because he's definitely less on the risk side, or do you think your behaviour's changed?
Well, I mean, Peter was at the Bank of Scotland, was our main banker, so he was sacked and blamed for a lot of this stuff unfairly. But it's very interesting now. You've met our son Jamie, who's joined West Coast Capital and the Hunter Foundation. I never encouraged any of my kids to join us because it's quite hard doing what we do, and it's hard to follow someone like me. I mean, hard for them. It's not hard for me. And he went off and did his own thing. But then 2.5 years ago, he said, "Can I come and see?" I was a bit worried about it, but it's been brilliant. And he is educating me. He thinks I'm educating him, which maybe I'm a wee bit, but he's kind of got me to listen to podcasts and some brilliant stuff that I would never have been aware of. And he's now saying, "Okay, Dad, the next stage of the journey is we don't need to get wealthy as a family. We need to stay wealthy because you've did all the hard work. We've just got to manage it and not lose it."
Yeah.
And I'm trying to instill in him and all my kids a kind of philanthropic gene, as it were. So yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. It's a very mature approach. And I think it shows that diversity in your team, that Jamie will see things that you just never would because of your makeup and everything that you've experienced. And it leads me, actually, I had a question. I know Jamie and recently got to meet Adam,
Yeah.
one of your other children.
Only one you haven't met is Amy. She's in
Not met Amy.
Singapore right now.
And they're both successful in their own right and completely unique. And I'm very interested in what you think it takes to be a successful parent and raise successful children, because they're very different upbringing to you. And how do you kind of develop that? What's important to you as a parent?
How many kids have you got, Laura?
3.
3. Right.
Same as you.
Okay, there we go. So, my first bit of luck was finding my wife in a pub in Irvine 38 years ago. That was the day that changed my life. It was also the day the space shuttle crashed. You wouldn't even remember that. But so it was quite cosmic for all sorts of reasons. And Marion is just, she's from a council house in Stevenston, but she's got a thing that's quite rare called common sense. And I mean, people talk today about, work-life balance and all the rest of it. I mean, if you're growing a business, I don't know how you do it, work-life balance. What I did was, Marion did it, and I worked. I know that's not PC today, but that's what happened. And then, so Marion's a big part of the kids being who they are. And she's she's taught me a couple of big lessons. One is that the kids have got to make their own mistakes. So even if you see that they're making a mistake, you can't say, well, don't do that, because you've got to let them make it, as long as it's not, life threatening. You've got to let them make their own mistakes and learn from them. Um, you cannot expect, as an entrepreneur, a first generation entrepreneur, for your kids to have the same drive as you, because they're being brought up in a different environment. They will have drive, hopefully, but it'll be different to you. And don't judge them by your standards. That was a hard one for me to get, but Marion beat it into me every night. And then I had the privilege of meeting Warren Buffett, and I've been trying to meet him for years. And Mary and I signed something called the Giving Pledge with Bill Gates, and I was sat at dinner with him, Mary and I was asking him, I said, right, how about your kids, Warren? When did they become philanthropic? And he said, well, what age are your kids? I said, well, they're quite young. He said, well, my kids didn't get it till their 40s. He said, but kids don't do what you say, Tom. They do what you do. Your kids are always watching. And Marion got it before me. And I thought, wow, that's such a profound statement. So if you've been a bit of a tube and jumping about, and your kids are watching, you know? So
Yeah.
powerful stuff, powerful stuff.
It's really powerful, and it's something I've thought about a lot with my own children. And also, I think it's very hard to appreciate anything when you're young, no matter what your upbringing has been. And it's only since I had my own children I could say to my parents, thank you for everything you did, and we were so selfish. And so I might have another 25 years until they fully appreciate it, but it'll be different. But you're right, lead by example. It's the same for anyone in your team, anyone in your family. So
I mean, that's that is it. Yeah.
fully agree. So also, you, as well as supporting with philanthropy and supporting businesses through the Edge and Scale Up and the Hunter Foundation, you are deeply involved with Go Radio.
Yes.
What has, I was on your highly successful business show. It's a really enjoyable experience, and you both cover so many topics, and I love to hear Willie speak as well. I think he is just a fascinating story of growth, just done in such a self-deprecating, straightforward way, which is amazing and very authentic. But what have you learned from your Go Radio experience? Is there anything that's been different that you've kind of learned along the way?
Well, I mean, I guess Willie got the station because he's very Glasgow through and through, and he wanted a station that was for Glasgow, by Glasgow. I'm more about Scotland, for Scotland, by Scotland. I'm from Ayrshire, but I'm not as myopic as just Glasgow. And he kept saying to me, will you do a business show? And I'm like, what? But being run about Willie is great fun, first of all. And I think what he's doing there, he's giving business a voice. And I really felt there wasn't a positive voice for business. We're for business, by business. When we started the Entrepreneurial Exchange, it was for entrepreneurs, by entrepreneurs, but people who knew what they were doing. So I said, look, I'll give it a go. I mean, I think we're maybe 3 years in now. And I think we have no problem speaking truth to power. We have no problem calling out things as we see them. We have no problem saying good things as well. And if somebody in government or the council or in business is not doing it right, but not afraid to say it. What can they do to us? Not a lot. And I think people appreciate the honesty. I think people, especially when Nicola Sturgeon was in power, there was a bit of a fear factor. I wasn't feared of her, but because she's from Ayrshire, and but some business people would keep their head down. We've encouraged businesses not to put up with the nonsense. If it's not right, call it out. But you'll have heard me say it to Willie, it's a no moan zone. If you have a moan, you've got to have a solution. You can't just come on here and moan.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Contribute more than you complain.
yes.
Is my mantra.
So I think it's great fun, first of all, working with Willie. And are we making a difference? It's impossible to tell because he'll not pay for the radar figures because he's so mean, you know. So we have no idea.
You're running it on gut feel,
That's
which
it. Complete
it's
gut.
not fully wrong. Well, you touched a little bit on government, and I read your piece recently in the Times, and I also heard in the same week that 8 months is the average time for any minister in post in the UK, which was alarming to me because I imagined that was a business and the CEO changes every 8 months. So
You got it.
you provided advice to our new First Minister about emulating Ireland's strategy, and the economic growth there has been 10 times what Scotland have seen. Can you illustrate that point a little, and how on earth could we get any sort of consistency like we do in business in politics, and what would that
Yeah.
mean for Scotland?
I mean, your point is well made, and you know, I look at the cabinet posts, and this is not anything personal. And I look at the person doing it. It's a bit like me calling out the marketing lecture at university. Have you actually did marketing, or did you just read a book? You know, if your only experience in life is being a researcher for another politician, and you suddenly become a cabinet minister, that's not good enough. I want the best people running my country. How do we get the best people? I think we need a breadth of experience. I think we need to pay them a lot more, and they need to earn the respect. We've got too many people in power who don't know what they're doing, Laura. And I'm not trying to be controversial, it's just the truth. Look at the state some of the policies have come out. We need the best people running the country. We need people who are willing to say, I don't know how to do that. Can you help me? You know, I think a lot of politicians see it as a weakness if they've got to ask for help because the other politicians will chastise them. But, you know, nobody's got all the answers. Not one person. I would really struggle to run the economy of Scotland. I've thought about how on earth do you start, you know, but you need to start from a position of experience. And therefore, um, I was very struck by, I visited China maybe 10 years ago, and I sat on the advisory board of a Chinese university, of all things, for a guy called Li Ka-shing, who's Asia's richest man. And we sat down with probably the best academics I've ever met, all Chinese, all educated in America, but all have come home. And once they opened up a bit, they kind of said to myself and Marion, you know, your country, they meant the UK, is going to go bust because you can't afford the NHS. The first thing they said, and I'm like, oh, NHS is the envy of the world. And they said, yeah, maybe today it's in its current form, it cannot be run and financed the way that it is today, and it'll bankrupt you. I was like, oh, and then we got on to. I said, well, you're a communist country, and they said, but we're not a communist country. They said we believe that the best people in the country should rise to the top. What do you believe in? And I'm like, well, that's what I believe in. He said, but we do it. The best people in China. I said, well, but but what about corruption? And they were very honest. They said, yeah, we need to get that to a manageable level. And I often think back to that conversation because I thought they were so wrong. And I'm thinking today, how do we get the best people, running countries? Because it's the hardest job. Let's face it, it's the hardest job. It's a lot harder than running a business. I always remember bringing President Obama over to Scotland, and we did a wee round table before. We had 2,000 people, but I had a wee round table with business people beforehand, and said any questions. And Martin Sorrell, who ran WPP at the time, had said, "Well, why don't you get this done?" And you're not getting much done, and So Obama he was brilliant, and he said, "Well, Martin, when you are the CEO of your company, probably 90% of the people in the business agree with you and they're on your side and they want you to succeed. The minute I became president, 49% were against me and wanted to stop me doing anything. You try managing in that environment." And I thought, wow, that's absolutely right. So I don't have an answer. I've got all the analysis, I've got a moan, but I don't have a solution. But I'm working on it.
What would it take for you to go into politics?
No, I am not. I'd be a terrible politician. I'm too disruptive. I'm not even. I don't even sit in the board of my own companies. They won't allow me.
Well, you got the experience, and I think that is you're totally right. That's what we're lacking. And I think the other thing is that and those are excellent points. The long term thinking is never going to be there because we're talking in 4-year terms. So no one's going to take a risk. Your first year you're blaming the guys before, then you're kind of getting ready, and then you're getting ready for another election. So no one's taking a big bet to do, nuclear power or whatever it is because it's a
Yeah,
20-year play. And no one's like, thanks very much for the 20-year ago government, which I think we're going to struggle constantly, with this change all the time. We don't get the consistency.
yeah, and it's got to be. Our new first minister. We have worked with John Swinney when he was education, when he was finance, and he's a great human being. Can he get things done in a hung parliament? Probably the parliament is not fit for purpose because it was envisaged as somewhere that would never be a majority. It was designed that way. They thought people would work together and find consensus, but it's just driven divide. And then you have the crazy situation where a party like the Greens, who got minimal votes, hold the balance of power, and the tail wags the dog. That's not good enough for Scotland.
No, and probably leads us back to we'll just get on with it, in terms of what we can do for business. Like we're not going to be waiting on anyone to solve
No.
our problems. So then moving just to the economic, the more global landscape. I know you have always got an eye on the rest of the world. What trends do you think entrepreneurs should be paying attention to right now?
AI. There's a TED talk by Demis of Google DeepMind just out in the past week. Every business should be mandatory watching. I won't spoil it. You've probably seen it. One of the advisors to the Hunter Foundation is number 2 in Google DeepMind, and we honestly, my brain can't keep up. It's going to affect every single business, and you either see it as a threat or an opportunity, and it's your job as the leader to be out in front, if that's possible. You know more about it than me. I've got you on the radio to talk about it.
Yeah, no, we are all in and so excited about AI and the opportunities that it brings. But I think it's managing, the change within the organization, and so much of it is the mindset of the organization, and and people will operate in fear, and actually it's our job to make people feel excited and know that the upskilling is there. And something we've done is give everyone in the organisation some form of ownership over what do you think AI could do for your role, and helping people to have these innovative projects and have a say in it, and some of the stuff will make its way up to being implemented. But yeah, this week with OpenAI's release for spring and the Gemini updates, it is phenomenal pace of change. Like you say, it's the slowest and it's the fastest, and it's also the slowest it'll ever be. So
Yep.
yeah, hugely exciting. And that is what could change for Scotland. If every business in Scotland
Yeah.
really drove that, and we start building an ecosystem that the AI startups can come out of, then that
And
changes the
I
conversation.
think you were there at Blair when we held our latest scale up, and Chris van der Kuil said Edinburgh was a leading centre in the world for this. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. It's amazing.
I couldn't believe that, and I'm going to organise a field trip for us. That Edinburgh University is the oldest AI institute in the world. It's 60 years old.
Wow.
I'd never heard that. So yes, we will absolutely go on a field trip to Edinburgh
Yeah.
Uni. And then finally, any aspiring entrepreneurs listening to this podcast thinking, I want to go do something for myself, what advice would you give them as they start their journey?
Well, I think, listen, every entrepreneur is different. We're all made differently. You can't just say, "Oh, that's an entrepreneur," and put us all in the one basket. Goodness, we don't like being put in baskets anyway. But I would say the kind of things I've learned along the way is learn by doing. You know, people will say, "Oh, should I do an MBA?" Well, no, unless you want to work for someone else. That's my personal opinion. I know we have the Hunters Centre for Entrepreneurship, and they hate it when I talk like this. But anyway, but learn by doing. So, and learn from your mistakes. So if you're going to fail quick, fail cheap, get back on the bus. There's nothing like, I tried it, it didn't work. I learned this, I'm better equipped. As long as your failures aren't terminal, Laura. So in the early days, trial and error, but you got to have someone who deals with rejection. It's not for everyone, as you know, and it's something we teach at Scale Up. Some people can get quite ill over this stuff. You've got to deal with rejection. You've got to deal with failure. You've got to deal with all these things. But if you can, and you learn by doing, and you really appreciate, you have the empathy to build a team, then it's just the most magical feeling. Especially when somebody's told you can't do it.
Yeah, that's great advice, and it's great fun just to make something up and create a business. And you're totally right about the failure, the rejection. I believe that it actually gets easier over time, that it's almost like muscle memory. Like the failures don't hurt as bad. There's a
Oh,
brilliant
they
book where
do, they do.
they do, but you recover faster. You recover faster.
I
I don't know
still,
if you've read.
I
Oh, you
still
go.
hate rejection. I just hide it better.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Ray Dalio's book Principles talks about it's just another one of these, another one of those. Whatever the thing is, it's a lot of the same situations, but they're dressed up as something else. Whether it's a client leaving or a key employee leaving, or you went out on you lose out on a huge pitch. You recognise the patterns and you kind of have coping mechanisms. So, I still find failure painful, but I can bounce back quicker. Okay, and then my last question for you is there something that springs to mind over the last however long you want to go back, a small investment that you made, less than £100 or free, in yourself that you think has paid dividends for years to come?
My hair transplant. Can you not see my print? £100 on myself.
Or less? Anything that you've bought, training, an item, something that you've bought that's just, you can't believe the difference it's made to your life?
Well, I love music, so I think it's my portable speaker, because I love the quality. I've been able to. It was more than £100, I must admit, but I've been able to get the best like Lynn products and listen to music in a whole different way, and I think music's definitely helped change my life for the better.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom, for your time. I know you are such a busy man and we really appreciate the time. And thank you for all you're doing for Scotland and entrepreneurs.
Well, I've actually loved this because I never like to see the questions because I don't know what I'm going to say. And actually, when you make me think, I think, goodness, that's actually how that worked. So I've learned a lot from me, even if nobody else has.
Good. I'm sure they will. And we can dig into the archive. So thank you for joining us.
Laura, all the best.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tag Lab. We are super excited to bring you the huge conversations that inspire growth in our digital world. Make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button to be notified as soon as the next episode is out. Thanks for listening.